welcome back to Tavern Talk. I am Mike, and joining me this week is the artist premiere of Wonder Woman, as well as all other comic books that you may know, is Mr. Phil Jimenez. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited. I feel like this is going to be the first time we have ever sat down to talk about stuff.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we've been chatting for years back and forth, both in P-Town as well as over the internet. And it's always like, I've said this so many times, like here out in the world, is when I find other nerds, it's just like magnets. Like I just
Yeah.
go close because especially in those social situations, especially in places like P-Town or Fire Island, where I'm like, this is fun, but like, when can I go home? When can I go play video games? But when I find someone like you, where I'm like, do you want to talk about Threnody from the X-Men comics? And you're like, I've never heard of her before, which is something that actually happened.
Oh my God. Yes. It's actually funny because I was thinking, I think the last time I might have seen you in person, you were getting painted in
Yes.
Afton's gallery, right? And it
Yeah.
was really, really wonderful. And I can't remember. I don't know if you told your audience about you being a model for a character for me, because you're just so perfect.
I
God,
haven't yet, but
you're
I
so
was going to bring that up.
Yeah. We'll bring that up in a minute.
Yeah.
But one of the beautiful things I think about spaces like this, conventions, there's a thriving little D&D community here in Provincetown, which I kind of love. There are a couple of different campaigns going, and their approach to the campaigns are very different. One's like very queer in a very specific way. But what I love is that going to these spaces, there's a lot of different kinds of people, even different kinds of queer people. But the minute you're like Rogue and Magneto, people are like, like they all have thoughts and opinions, and they get very, very excited.
Yes. Yes.
What about Final Fantasy VII or The Last of Us? Whatever we all tend to watch and consume the same stuff for the most part, and like we all have thoughts, and I actually love that. I love the surprise of that.
Unlike most of the other game meccas, I feel like P-Town and maybe I don't know where else it would be like, is like it is still that kind of hub community for artists and creatives, and as my mom calls them, sensitives, where it's this idea.
That's the title of something, tell mom like you've just created like a new TV show.
The sensitives. But it's this, when I go to P-Town, I'm like, oh yes, it can be like the carnival level of activity, where it's just like drugs, party, another club. I mean, we tend to go during Bear Week, which is a little bit slower.
It's the best.
It is the best. But any week there, I'm like, oh, this still feels like a community. And I love P-Town, but I'm sure you have your own perspective on it. Could you tell me a little bit about why you moved there in the first place and what keeps you there, as like it is a very notable town within the queer community?
Yeah, so I will try to breeze through this because I'm going into year 5.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I had started thinking about moving to Provincetown around 2016-17. Part of that was because having come here so often during summer across various weeks, I sort of grew tired of the party and started wondering like more about the town. Like we all come, we sort of descend on it, and then we leave after our magic week. But I was like, oh, this is a real place. It's a real working village with people who live here. What are they like? Who are they? Like, what is this place that we come to? And then, find love, break hearts, whatever, and then go back to our various homes. So I literally started getting off Commercial Street when I started coming and started going to other businesses and just kind of checking out the town, trying to figure out how our water worked, all sorts of things. After this was all coincided with the first election of Donald Trump, and this sense that the world is going to change and change substantially. And I remember, not to deep dive too heavy, but giving a lecture at SVA on the same day or the day after Brett Kavanaugh had been appointed, and I had completely restructured this lecture I was going to give to a bunch of cartoonists, because I knew in my heart that this was the start of something. It wasn't the end of something. It was beginning. And then part of that would be a sort of assault and attempted erosion of LGBTQ rights. So my goal in coming to Provincetown was civic in the beginning. It was I wanted to be part of the town. I wanted to be able to vote in town, and you have to live here in order to do that,
Yeah.
because I wanted to shape the direction of the town, fearing loss of queer spaces around the country. They've already been sort of eroded because of general, um, what do I want to say, equanimity among groups anyway. There's a
Hmm.
feeling, I think, among younger queer people that we don't need gay specific spaces as much. But my feeling was under this administration, and under the sort of assault of the Supreme Court, we were absolutely going to need spaces, like protective spaces. So
Yeah.
that was my primary reason in coming here. I'd also wanted to live in a queer community. I'd lived in New York City for 35 years, and I lived 10 blocks north of Hell's Kitchen, and I had a wonderful gay life there. And I don't mean to say that I didn't. But
Well,
what
they're
I
all talking about you, all bad things since you've left.
the funny thing was, like, it coming here and sort of deep diving into like a predominantly queer and predominantly male community
Mm,
ended up for me being a dream come true, because I found camaraderie, romance, sex, a bunch of things that I didn't have in New York at an intensity that I had never experienced before.
interesting.
And relationships that have lasted for years, and I hope will last for years more. And part of that is the very nature of the town. Unlike New York and Provincetown, that I'm going to wrap this up, we are together all the time. So
Mm,
proximity fosters a pace in relationships that I don't think happens in larger cities, because it can be weeks between seeing friends, even weeks between going on a date with someone you started seeing, right? Like
yeah.
here, you'll see them at the gym and then run to the grocery store and then probably on Commercial Street and then probably at the Squealing Pig. And so things happen much more quickly. So a lot of relationships are nurtured and can be burnt, like you can burn through them as well if you're not careful over a shorter period of time.
Yeah,
But
the sense of neighbor is kind of very lost here in New York. I've talked about this before on other pods where it's just like the idea of working at that ground level, working within a community is so difficult in a city like New York because I'll admit I don't even talk to my neighbors across the hall. Why would they be part of my neighborhood? Even though they technically are, it's just like the nature of this town where I'm like, what's the joke is like they put up those if you see something, say something signs in New York because the joke was New Yorkers don't say anything to anyone about anyone else because it's
right.
none of their business. But like, yeah, I think back and we had this other couple that lived in our building that was around the same age as us, and they had a little girl, white when they moved in, and they became like our neighbors. And I never had that before. They had a key to our apartment. We would go over there once a week and drink wine. And I'm just like, we watched their kids grow up and they left during the pandemic, obviously, because they had 3 kids in a 2 bedroom apartment where I'm like, go get bigger, get more space. But yeah, I feel as though I need to make more of an effort, or and I've been trying to make more of an effort to build what a community looks like to me in New York on a smaller scale. You know, it's like I can just say I'm gay and go out to gay bars and that's my community, but I want to use a platform like this to, boost people up, send a message if I can, and just kind of get people thinking, talking, laughing, whatever you want in a Brett Kavanaugh winning world, unfortunately.
Right, right, right. I mean, it's just actually really beautiful. In your defense, in the defense of New Yorkers, having been one for a long time, the city itself is hyper demanding, right? In a
Mm,
way that Provincetown simply isn't, except for like during the high summer months. The pace again at which we work in the city, the scale of the city itself, distance between people, like, I remember once it took me 2 hours to get to Forest Hills, Queens from the, Upper West Side. And that's it's just there are these constraints, I think, that make camaraderie building really more difficult than maybe in other places.
probably,
But
yeah.
ultimately, I wrote a story, a humble brag that won the Eisner last year for best short story, and in the New York in the DC Comics Pride anthology, and it was all about my sort of lifelong search for queer utopia,
Yeah,
and sort of how none of them have been. I think it was like I said, none of them have been perfect, but they've all sort of been paradise in their own way, and that's true of Provincetown. It definitely has its problems. We read about them. they're not incorrect. A lot of those stories, particularly about the gentrification that's happening so fast and the development that's happening so fast. But I've met people here I would have never met in any other city, even though circles sort of crossed over,
Mm.
simply because, again, proximity. During the winter, we have 5 places to hang out, and we
Yeah.
do.
And it's the burden of being cool, gay, and welcoming is that everyone wants to be part of the crowd. You know, once we have to build our own little section because we're not allowed in the main spaces, then it's like, can I come over there? What are you guys talking about? Why can't I come? Oh, I'm going to buy that apartment and three next to you because you're not making room for me. It's the same thing in Fire Island. It's the same thing in a lot of in Palm Springs, all the gay meccas that you talk about. But at these cores, it's like, you're right. There is a space for the queer sensitives to connect. And if you go outside of those summer months, my husband and I have a place in Fire Island that we go to. We're going to this weekend where I love the shoulder seasons. I love the off months
They're
because
the best.
you go with your family. You go with the people that matter the most, the people that you don't mind being stuck inside for a long weekend with just Netflix and a fireplace, then you're good.
100%. Random question. Do you know
Yeah.
James Thurney?
Oh, he's my biggest crush. Yes, I know him.
Oh, so James is a perfect example of someone who, like, our circles were, we knew a lot of the same people. I would never have had means or reason to cross paths with him in the outside world.
Hmm.
And even when we moved here, I think the same year, and I had friends who were like, "Oh my God, you gotta go meet him." And I was like, why? I didn't know, because I didn't really know much about him.
Yeah.
They just wanted me to meet him because he was so handsome. And so we, took about a year and a half, and we would sort of see each other. And then he started writing and putting his writings out on Instagram. And I loved him so much. I reached out to him. I was like, oh my God, can we talk about these? And we did. We met for coffee. And from that moment on, he became one of my favorite people in the world.
He's such a fascinating man. Like I've hung out with him a handful of times, and he is just equal. It's that Venn diagram. I'm like, how can you be this kind, this smart, and this attractive, like all in one shared space? It's like, save something for the rest of us. Like,
Uh, there is that, because I had to leave it recently. We were in a writing group together, and his writings, I mean, are just, I'm going to use this word a lot. I'm going to overuse it, magical,
mm,
because he sees the world in a way that is so vastly different than I do, and so much more interesting than I think I do. And the way he absorbs and processes information and talks about it, and his unbelievable understanding of pop culture, plus his crazy lived life that he's
yeah.
had. And then he's just this incredibly gentle, sensitive guy.
Yeah. Well, I think
I
that's
love
the
you
that's the
so
common thread,
much.
is that sensitivity, that willingness to be open
Yes,
with each other,
yes,
not just because we're gay men and we're living in the same space, but it's like to show that level of vulnerability with each other. That's kind of why I'm doing this D&D thing, is that it's I find the like-minded people who are willing to play, because I invite people to the table, especially people who've never played before, because I really like to help break those walls down, because it's the willingness to say, yes, I'm willing to be silly, I'm willing to be sensitive, I'm willing to be weird or be conceived as weird in front of this person I kind of know or barely know, just for the sake of them getting to know me a little bit better, which is such a vulnerable place to be in. And I'm like, you don't understand. I'm going to be at the table doing 10,000 different things, doing terrible bad accents, making up a story that might sound pulled from a Frankenstein of different things, of comic books and video games and movies. And it's all an excuse just to spend time with you. And I think that there's not enough people who are just like, I just want to hang out. I don't care if we drink. I don't care if we go see a movie. Like, I just want to spend time with you,
yes.
period. Which I usually gets the best stories out of, when you think back, is like when we hung out at the art gallery and I was half pink and talking about Threnody. So speaking of comic books, I mean,
Yes.
we can't not talk about your run on basically every big comic book, but the one I want to talk about specifically is Wonder Woman. Obviously, you are both noted within the comic book community, as well as, I think, self-professed a Wonder Woman historian. At this, you know, a lot of
I know
information
a
about it.
lot, although my knowledge ends probably, my real knowledge ended with the New 52 reboot.
Yeah.
Because I
Okay.
was the writer of the Wonder Woman Encyclopedia. And so I reread everything, I knew everything. And then when the reboot happened, there was just this kind of this strange break where it's like, oh, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
And so I sort of tracked the character, but I just felt highly disconnected in from, and I just thought, okay, it's just not mine anymore, right? Like that was the, and it was interesting. I wasn't angry, I wasn't sad. I just felt like severed. And so I've become more and more interested. I've become interested again in the character in recent years, particularly with Absolute Wonder Woman. But
Very
I
hardcore right now.
very hardcore. But yeah, so I know a lot about Wonder Woman from a period of time, and I've actually written a couple of academic papers. I think at the University of Madison, Wisconsin, and that were included in this really cool academic work. That was actually the really fun
Oh, I didn't know you
thing.
did that. That's cool.
I did, and it was so it all started with a big question: is war feminist?
And is it?
So it's an interesting question. The reason that for the framework, just for listeners, is that Wonder Woman was created as a decidedly anti-war character in the 1940s, and then every few years or so, the character changed and evolved in some way, usually as a reflection of kind of feminist ideology of the time.
The Madonna
To,
of DC Comics.
basically. But then in the 1980s, with George Perez, the character was turned into essentially a pro-warrior character, and which kind of upended the whole like a Princess of Peace thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then as time's gone on, she's just become more and more and more of like this warrior goddess, warrior princess. And so I ended up in my studies, I did this whole thing about, particularly, we could go really deep into it, but Hollywood and war, how we propaganda and war,
Yeah.
kind of a sort of, we have like a pop culture conception of war is, and then what the reality of war is, etc. And different people have different ideas about this, but I ended up talking to two professors, two women at NYU, who were recommended to me, who actually had different ideas. So one argued that war is not feminist for the primary reason that feminism is about equalizing human beings, all human beings, that we
Mm-hmm.
are all the same. And war demands that you dehumanize someone so that you can kill them, right? So your enemy
Makes
is
sense.
less than you. So that's like inherently unfeminist. And she argued that also the incredible waste of resources and a bunch of other sort of much more physical stuff made it anti-feminist. Then this other one argued the opposite, that feminism was created as a barrier against patriarchy. And it was built in opposition to this other force. It was built to fight and combat this force. And so
Mm-hmm.
it is inherently that feminism is not like soft, that is meant to fight and fight back. And so I included all those ideas. And then of course, I mean, the trick is larger cultural questions, including ones that I'm sure I have the answers to, and then uh, I'm always my certainty is always defeated when new information arises. But we all think women should be a certain way, and the problem with Wonder Woman is that unfortunately she was created as a sort of icon of feminism and femininity. So
Mm.
she bears an unfair burden
To always
because
represent that.
she has to represent all these different ideas. So what is beauty? What is power? What is war? What is peace? Like, is she a down home girl? Is she like a high and mighty princess? Like, can she be both at the same time? Like
Mm.
that character was expected for a very, very long time to be a lot of things to a lot of people, which is, I think, another, which is she has in common with other sort of representational characters, particularly like early queer characters who had to represent all queer people. And
And she does come off as, I mean, she's from a island full of women at this point. So it's like, how can you not read queerness into her character inherently to a certain
well, and in the
extent?
1940s, it wasn't even,
True.
it's not even subtext. It's all there.
Yeah.
But then you get into sort of commercial needs of companies who are like, well, we can't do that, so dial that down, or we can't
Give her a boyfriend who's
right, right,
an
right, right,
American
right, right.
pilot.
And so when people ask, well, clearly she's from this island of women, clearly, and you're like, well, if she were real, unfortunately, she's not real. She's a character. She's a corporate character, and therefore subject to all the whims of not only cultural needs but corporate ones.
Mm.
And so she becomes even more difficult under that lens.
It's interesting because I was thinking about even though she is a warrior to a certain extent, in terms of a warrior denotes like part of war, obviously, is part of the word, but the weapons she typically utilizes are her bracelets and her rope, which are inherently passive or defensive.
Hmm.
So it's like, you're right. She does kind of skirt that line between, this is the character that I can see ripping my head off if she had the, what, I don't know if you remember, there's that line in one of the comics that she says, um, if we can't convince, we maim. If we can't
Oh
kill,
yeah, yeah.
we don't kill. Do you know the quote? I'm going to look it up real
Yes,
quick.
it's a Gail Simone quote, actually.
Yes. Um,
And I think it's actually a beautiful tier. And the other thing that's really interesting, oh, I could go on about this forever, but like again, conceptually about that character is that she's full of contradiction, which is I think hard often for writers and sometimes consumers who are looking for like a clear vision of something. And so for a character who's this and this,
mm.
who might be this way and this way, can be a harder sell than yeah, there it
I
is.
found it. And she says, it says right here, don't kill if you can wound, don't wound if you can subdue, don't subdue if you can pacify, and don't raise your hand at all if until you first extended it, which is such a beautiful statement. Gail Simone obviously can write a good piece of comic book dialogue at that point.
Yeah.
But no, that's something, it's one of those things that kind of stays in my mind where I'm like, yeah, in any even conflict, not even just war that I have, it's just like, what am I doing to make sure that I'm keeping the peace? Not just for like both people, but like it takes from me when I'm purposely making something more difficult or painful or aggressive. And it's like I'm raised Roman Catholic. I'm from a family full of screaming women every holiday. So it's like my natural instinct is to yell and to scream. And I'm like, no, that's not good for me. I need to calm
Yeah.
it down. The Lexapro helps as well. Actually, no, it's Zoloft
the,
now. I switched.
the other and we don't have to talk, I feel like we're going to go on about this forever, but the other interest, I've talked to fellow academics about Wonder Woman a lot. They're so often interested in her sexual and gender dynamics, particularly because she was created by like this throuple in the 1930s, right? From a particular economic class. And I'm more interested in the war component. And again, because I think it's a almost harder question
Mm-hmm.
about when it's okay to go to war, what war is. Like there's a book, Chris Hedges, the war correspondent, wrote a book called War is a Force That Gives Us Meaning, right? Why we respond to war. He also wrote a book, What Everyone Should Know About War, and it's a bunch of factoids. Like literally, there was a guy, it was he took an old manual from the 1940s that they would give young officers going off to fight in World War II to say, like, these are things you can expect. And it was
Mm-hmm.
everything from will my marriage last
Gosh.
to what happens when if I get shot in the abdomen, like just crazy clinical answers to all these questions. And what is war? Like, what is the difference between a war and a fight, right? And
Mm.
like, the word means something. It has a connotation. I think in a pop culture sense, it's sexy and it says a lot about how we have eroticized violence.
Dramatic.
It's dramatic, it's big, but it does have a definition, and it does have, war has consequences. And I think the real trick with superheroes generally is you have to be very, very, very careful bringing too much reality into anything, because the consequences would be impossible to deal with.
Yeah, yeah. I guess back to the original question: is war feminist? Did you ever answer that question?
I don't think it is.
Okay.
But people who are far more educated than I am would disagree.
We'll leave it to the to the masses to figure out.
Academics, please write in and let us know your
Yes,
feelings.
give us very strong opinions in the comments below. We will totally read them and make our own assessment.
I want to say one last thing about
yeah.
Wonder Woman, because I'd like throwing this in, and it goes to the war thing, but whatever. So when she was created, she had, those little bracelets.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's really funny because over the years, over the decades, they got bigger and bigger and bigger. So they would cover her whole forearm because they were, of course, deflecting bullets. And then they became like bracer. They stopped being jewelry and started being like, part of her body armor, which I think is very funny. But one of the reasons they were so small was because catching bullets on your wrist was it's like a
circus act. Yeah.
But it was like, if you could do that, if you could catch a bullet on your wrist, like that meant you were fucking amazing,
Yeah.
right? It was an act of skill. And one of the things I was thinking about is by covering her whole forearm, it diminishes that part. It probably makes her more formidable looking,
Mm.
but the skill set is less interesting because she's not catching it on this, she's catching it like,
She
on
has a
the whole thing.
wider surface area, so it's not as
Right.
impressive.
Yeah. And so it was one of the reasons that I think it was Adam Hughes has never loved her with weapons, partially because he thinks anything she can do with a sword, she can do with her hand. And that the shield takes away from the bracelet's sight.
Yeah, I've never seen her with a shield. I think, and this is in my own headcanon because I have to say that I know she's not canonically this, but as a Greek man, I'm like, I own her as a Greek
Oh, of
person.
course you,
And
of
it's
course,
just
yeah,
like, because I see her as like one of my aunts with like the long black curly hair.
yeah.
And
Right,
she has that unibrow that she plucks every morning. She's not vain about anything but that only because it gets in the way of her like being able to be strategic. Like it's like giving too much of a shadow maybe.
right.
And it's this idea.
It's so funny.
But I see I grew up, my father would read the Greek myths to me growing up, so I have a lot of this affection for her as a character, and kind of as you've moved through her storylines, is kind of like it is this, as much as it is like a feminist trope, it's also just like a Greek tragedy sometimes, which is why I
Oh, yeah.
always love the Wonder Woman world, the mythos, because it is still touching on something within a context that we all kind of collectively somewhat understand. It's both real and not, and it's kind of the same with D&D. Is just like there's a lot of borrowed ideas in that you can see in other places, but how is this going to be interpreted this way? How is the Minotaur going to be interpreted? How is Hades going to be interpreted? How is the goddess of love going to be interpreted? But is there, I guess, to cap it off, what is your who is your Wonder Woman? Like, what is the ideal version of Wonder Woman for you? Like, when you think of Wonder Woman, is it TV show? Is it the Bruce Timm cartoon? Is it anything that you drew specifically, or is it a combination? If you could Frankenstein
Like
her together,
like the platonic ideal of
yeah,
Wonder Woman. I'd be lying if I said that the TV version didn't weigh heavily in my brain
yeah,
for a couple of reasons. Again, one, she was not a warrior, like she was not in body armor, and I think the militarization of our heroes, particularly in the '90s, has had a lasting effect on the way we see like heroes, superheroes, again, war, etc. Like, I do not think of Wonder Woman and the Amazons in my ideal world as militarized. And so I like a version of her that is, quite frankly, a little sillier, a little
yes, whimsical.
queerer, a little more whimsical. Like that makes me, because that's has a lot to do with my own sense of the world, that stuff isn't cherished or valued in the same way sort of, a dude with a gun is, or like a woman with a giant sword is. Um, because that has cultural value that sort of whimsy doesn't. And so my
It's
version,
her version, where Linda Carter's version, where it's like you can tell, yes, she has a responsibility to protect people and to protect the world, but she's also enjoying living her life. Like she's not afraid to skateboard to save the world if she
well,
needs to.
but and I say this as someone who's watched that show over and over. What I love about watching her as an actor over the 3 seasons was, in the first season, she's very earnest because she's just showed up from, Paradise Island. And so everything is just, there's a certain sparkle in her eye. By season 3, she's just tired. Like these
She's
guys
ready
come
to
up
go
to her,
back.
these guys come up to her and she like takes their gun and she throws them down. And she's constantly like doing that, like that thing.
Haven't they
Because she,
learned by now?
yeah, like,
Have they
'cause
wound up been watching the other
she's
two
like,
seasons?
why do men still do this, right? Like it's just this general frustration with like, and maybe Linda Carter was just like, I hate the show, get me off of it. But it was
She
also
seemed to
like,
have liked it, I think.
I think
In the
I'm
future,
teasing,
she talked about it.
but like I love the exasperation at the
Mm.
bad behavior of men in that show.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that.
Like, because there was a lot. I had my cousin watch one, and there was a line. Some guy tries to kidnap her, and she throws him over, and he goes something to the effect of, "What? You're a woman?" And Linda Carter just rolls her eyes because the guys can't believe that he was defeated by a woman, and it's just, and it felt like 3 seasons in, she's like, God, this is what it's going to be like, isn't it?
Yeah, I think no matter what generation or what focus you are as a gay man, you will always gravitate towards the strong woman who can punch a man in the face. Like for
A
me,
hundred, a
it's the
hundred
Buffy
percent.
Summers, it's the Linda Carter, it's the. And now this is a little insight into me, into my weird like DC fixation, because I'll admit I'm more of a Marvel boy, but I don't know if you do gay YouTube nights with friends, like we just sit down and just put on stupid YouTube videos every once in a while.
Occasionally, but not like that.
So I have three in rotation that everyone knows that I will put them on if I get the controller. There's two DC ones, and one is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's Buffy fighting Faith at the end of season 3, which is just an iconic fight scene
Oh
altogether.
God.
The second one is it's all women fighting each other, which is the crazy part. Second one is from Smallville season 3, where Lana gets like mind controlled and then she starts punching Chloe Sullivan, and it's just like the most ridiculous fight in the hallways of Smallville High, where Lana gets an axe and starts hacking away at Chloe in the girls' locker room. It's camp, it's stupid, it's silly, I love it. But my favorite of all time, which I think I caused this song to have a resurgence, is the series finale of Birds of Prey from WB.
My God.
Did you ever watch that show?
I think probably one episode.
Yeah, no, it is. You can find it. It's still there because I'm sure I'm the only one rocking up the views on it. But it's set to the song "All the Things She Said" by Tattoo, and it's all these three superpowered women blasting through the Watchtower and just fighting Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn has a lot of iterations in the world, but I don't know why this one's my favorite, because it's got that '90s women's like frill cut, and she's just like all acrobatic and a little kooky, and she's just kicking and doing the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. But it is that feeling. I'm like, it is so, I don't know why as a gay man, so empowering to watch women be so powerful, because I'm just like, hey, they're able to do it, so maybe I can do it. Maybe I can defend myself if I need to.
Well, it's interesting, so that we equate power with that kind of physicality,
Yeah.
right? Like, and there's a whole question about that. I'm clearly addicted to the same thing, but when I was doing all that Wonder Woman work, it was interesting, like what the ability to punch someone clearly and has a very, what's it called, cathartic effect, especially in fiction. And so I came to realize it's important. So as much as like I was very high-minded about it, I'm like, oh, we can't do this in real life, so we want our heroes to do this. A letter from this kid that I got 25 years ago and was writing Wonder Woman was that he hated how much, because my first 7 or 8 issues, maybe even more than that, she was constantly finding ways around beating up the villain, talking them through it, using the laughs or whatever. And this guy wrote me and he was like, I hate this. I hate it so much. Because he was from the Philippines, and he's like, I am bullied all the time for being gay, and I want to see Wonder Woman punch the shit out of people because I can't. Right. And it was like the first time I became aware that that these books are, not aware, but like was really cognizant of the fact that these books are power fantasies, and that why I might not be drawn to that sort of violence, it is sometimes the only outlet people have, and it's sometimes the only place where they see good defeat evil, right?
Yeah.
Like the good guy win, like that becomes important, I think.
Just like in D&D, it is the power fantasy there.
And one last thing about women fighting. So I actually have a couple of favorite sequences
Please tell me.
that I think are underrated. So I'm a big sucker for the first Charlie's Angels movie, the Drew Barrymore one, because I think that it's like feminism on fire. The second one is more problematic, but I think the final, the first fight where they're fighting the sailors in the warehouse is unbelievably choreographed. And then when they're fighting Demi Moore at the end, the three of them it's pure superhero fantasy. And like watching all these women and their stunt doubles do these incredible martial arts, like to me, it's like just high comic book fantasy. But that the fight sequence between with the angels at the end in the sequel with Demi Moore, it still blows my mind. Those fight sequences are incredible.
It's a physicality that is important regardless of how many wires are involved. It's like, no, I couldn't do that. Like that's
Yeah,
choreography, like to a T.
right.
No, but I
It's
agree.
fantastic.
Those are fun rewatches as well, for sure.
And there's and Lou wears heels. I just did a podcast recently where we're talking about which should superheroes wear heels? And I was like, Donna Troy will always wear heels.
Yeah.
Uh,
Now, speaking of which, we talked about this. I was recently featured in a Donna Troy
yeah,
annual, which I was very honored that you made me. You made me. I think I can honestly say I'm straight now because I had sex with Donna Troy. Um,
you're her great
Long
what
lost
I want to
love.
say. You're probably her greatest love, and also the one she has the best sex with.
Well, thank you for that.
Which I think they are intermingled,
I
honestly.
would say so. So, for those of you who don't know, I was honored. Phil drew my likeness as Speedy, as Red Arrow, in a Donna Troy annual. When did that come out? A couple months ago, right?
It came out last summer. It
Okay,
was
last summer, so
the
almost a year
Titans
ago.
annual #1. Yeah.
That was, I guess, technically the first time I had ever been drawn in a comic book, but my name has been in comic books before. But yeah, it is. Where did Donna Troy come from and all that? Why did you want to do an annual for her?
Oh God, everyone knows basically Donna Troy. Everyone who knows my work knows Donna Troy is my favorite character. For those who don't know who she is Wonder Woman's adopted sister.
And
And
I'll admit, the only thing I know about her, and I don't know if this is still true, is that there's only one of her in the multiverse, or is that still not true? Is that I remember,
currently there's only one of her.
but I remember like there was like something where she erased every version of herself, or every version of herself was erased, and it was only her. I don't know why I remember this small tidbit.
It's because it's not small. So back in the '90s, in the mid '90s, when John Byrne got a hold of her, he added this layer to her origin that has complicated her for 30 years, basically. And it was essentially creating 1,000 different versions of her, then compressing them, and then uh, she has been a continuity nightmare for much of her career. And it's a bummer because that character's, as I say, is probably my favorite character in comics for a number of reasons. And the continuity stuff always gets in the way of that. So the reason I wanted to do this annual partially was in the comics, Donna was an abandoned infant that Wonder Woman found, couldn't, and brought her back to Paradise Island to raise as her sister. In the New Teen Titans comics, Donna ultimately found her mother, who had died of cancer, but her father was never identified. In all canon, Donna was created in 1968. She's never had a father. So I was talking to my editor about a story idea that I'd had about, based on my own life, about what if Donna got a letter from her dad asking to meet her, and what would she say to him? And so that's something very similar to happen to me. I was estranged from my father, and then over the years, I would get these letters from his siblings on his behalf. Um, and so I wanted to tackle this idea with a character I know and love. And I love Donna for a couple of reasons. The biggest is that she's the best little girl in the world,
Hmm.
which I think a lot of women and queer people can identify with, right? Like she was written for the longest time as like she was the perfect girl because she had to be, because she was afraid that if she wasn't perfect, she wouldn't be loved because she was adopted.
Oh, I didn't think
And so
about that. Yeah.
so she had to, so she was she was Wonder Woman's sister. She had to be perfect. There was a scene in the annual where she was terrified that Hippolyta was going to give her away because, she acted out. And Hippolyta's like, well, that's not what we do here. And then when she became a Teen Titan, she became sort of like the kind of center balance for the two female characters who
Hmm.
were more extreme on either side. She got married. She was the good girl. She was the one who was moral and just and lovable all the time. And it was rooted deeply. There was a conversation late in that run where Beast Boy says, we'll love you even if you're not perfect. And that has sat with me for 30 years. So, and again, I think gay people and women totally, that is something you get. So I wanted to tackle that idea in this annual. Because I think with a character like Donna Troy, who has so many, as we were mentioning, continuity issues, the only way that that character will matter is if you address her character and not
Mhm.
her, not constantly retelling her origin.
Yeah, and I think readers and just fans are smart enough to be like what we were talking about before about like the idealized version. It's kind of not there's never going to be one version. There's always like little like differences between each writing of each character that there's like an amalgamation. It's like there's a collective consciousness of who Donna Troy is based on my interpretation versus your interpretation. It's like we kind of know who she is based on all the other stuff around her. So it's like you kind of don't need to over explain. I mean, maybe to the general populace, you need to explain who Donna Troy is, but for the true fans, the true feminists, we know who she is.
Well, this gets into an interesting discussion about who we are versus what we do,
Mm,
right? Or what our past is. I think there's a really interesting philosophical
yeah.
question because for many creators in my business, who is Donna Troy is where was she raised? Is she an Amazon? Is she a Titans of Mid? Like, what is her continuity? For me, who is Donna Troy is, oh, she's adopted. Oh, she was the best little girl in the world. Oh, she was a teenage bride. Like, it's all her character stuff. That to me is who Donna Troy is. Oh, she, like, Harper was her first true love and the best sex she's ever had, and like it's all intertwined. Like that to me is Donna. But for some people, they are hyper focused, not in any of that. That doesn't matter at all. It is, well, wait, was she born here or here? And I think there's a real life equivalent of that where, and we were talking earlier about getting to know our friends sort of deeply. And one of the great surprises is like going back to James for a minute is finding out like, oh my God, that guy can write and he's a good actor too. Like what? Like we know so many people have these amazing skills, and it feels like they don't often have a chance to let them all shine. Like I just found out a friend of mine like is a mechanic. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like I had no idea. Or people like can cook, that can sew, can cook, whatever, speak multiple languages. I'm just like, this is boggling to me. And that to me is who they are. Not necessarily like, I mean, clear where they're from is a component of that, but I think people are richer than that. And so a
If
character
if
like Donna, yeah,
if my grandmother was alive today, she'd be like, "Why is that such a big deal? I was sewing, cleaning, cooking, and changing oil when I was 14 years old. That's something we had to do before the war." You know, it's like it's funny
sure.
how, but you're right. Like I am. It's funny when I tell people I know how to knit, and it's just like it's something I wanted to take up. I have no need to knit. It's something I wanted to do, but it's also just like weird because it's a very like grandma activity. And I think it's like, oh, it just, when people intentionally go for things to do with their time, which is intentional, it's like, we know we're all going to scroll on our phones. We all know we're going to bed rot. We're all going to play video games or read comics, but those are the easy things to do. It's like when you're intentionally taking time out of your day, an hour or two to do something that is not digital, it's impressive nowadays because there's so much more temptation to not
I
to
think I think your grandmother's response, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to step over you, but your
that's
grandmother's
fine.
response, um, uh, well, of course that's what we did. That in and of itself is character. That says so much about her, like that she doesn't even see that as special, right?
Mhm.
And I think that makes me want to ask her even, if I could, even more questions.
Well, it was
Like
my
that's
great grandmother, but she's long passed. But it was one of those things like old German woman that was just like, yeah, I left Germany before World War II because it was getting crazy. Sorry. Like, and I had to survive in New York City at 16 years old. So did whatever I could to survive. Um, yeah, she was a crazy old woman. I loved her to death. But yeah, I couldn't imagine what it was like to be a cleaning woman nanny in an Upper East Side apartment at 16 years old, not knowing how to speak English. And it's just like, yeah.
my
Um,
my great grandmother had to move to Chicago at 14 by herself to work, and this would have been in the probably 1920. And I think about that all the time. And then her daughter got pregnant. My grandfather got her pregnant at 18, but was in the military, and he was stationed in San Antonio. My grandmother lived in Nebraska. They were not married when she got pregnant, so she had to take a bus down to San Antonio by herself to get him to marry her. Otherwise, she was told she couldn't stay in town. She couldn't have that baby and not have, and not be married. So an 18-year-old in the middle of World War II, carrying my mother, hops in a bus and goes from Nebraska to Texas to find the man that banged her once, right? Like, they were not in love. And my grandmother, and I believe her, said she didn't even know what sex was. She didn't know when it happened.
My goodness.
And she didn't know how she got pregnant, which is, I mean, considering my family, I totally believe it. But I think about these stories about our grandparents. The reason I bring this up,
Yeah.
our grandmothers, particularly the women in our life generationally, and then going back to the larger question about warriors, and think like these women were capable of so much more than are given credit for, but like in my head, they are so much bigger because they were young and they had to. They
Yeah.
had no choice and they did it.
I think that's what's kind of scaring me about this time that we're in is like, what will we have to do because we have to? Like, I'm doing these things now, not because I have to, but because, yes, I have to. I feel like I have to, like, connect with my friends, protect my friends, give back to my community, but also because I want to and I am able to, not because out of desperation. It's like maybe to soften the blow, maybe to like make it feel easier in case things get any worse. I'm not trying to like make anyone Debbie Downer, but it's like that idea where it's like there's this fear sometimes of like, well, I gotta show up because I need it to be okay to show up. And I needed
Mhm.
people to know that I'm going to show up to make it okay to show up. And speaking of showing up, I do want to bring this up. This is something we talked about. It ties back into our comic book past, but I'm going to share something. Don't worry, I took everything out that is identifiable. I'm going to see if I can pull this up. Yeah. I have a question for you. Did you ever get your Alpha Flight covers?
I have no idea. I
So
have no idea.
I do not remember at all either. For those of you who don't know, way back when, early 2010, 11, I was an employee at Marvel Comics, and I don't even remember what issue this was, or maybe issues 0 or 1 or something like that.
It was 1 through 4.
Okay. So I used to work in the operations department at Marvel. And one of my jobs was to kind of give back the pages to the artists. And it was always like, we always divvied it up like cover. It was like 1, 2, 3, 4 was like penciler, inker, colorist, letterer. Like we kind of divvied it up. And if someone really wanted one specific page, we'd give it to them. But, you know, my job was to kind of reach out to the artists and be like, hey, we have these pages available. Do you want them? 9 out of 10, they'd be like, no, I don't need them. I'm good. But sometimes, you know, if it was a important cover or something, I'd make sure I get it done. It was a lot more fun in New York because I think you were probably living in New York at the time. So I may have even dropped it off to you. I can't remember. Most likely I FedExed it to you. But there was one time I did get to go to John Romita Jr.'s house and drop off a few pieces to him. I forget what I did, but like he opened the door and one of his dad's pieces, I think his dad drew it, like it was just like in the foyer. And I'm like, he's like, "Are you Mike?" And I'm like, "Yes." And he's like, "Thanks." And then he just closes the door. And it wasn't like he wasn't being rude or anything. It was just like I called him that I was on my way and I had to get back to work. But it was just like, as a comic book nerd, and it's just like, oh my God, what is happening here? I mean, I unfortunately Disney came in, bought Marvel, and then there's a lot of corporate restructuring. So I didn't have my job for much longer. But you know, I got to work for Marvel Comics, which was kind of surreal for me. Made a lot of really longtime friends. I was intern there, and I was also an employee there for like a year and a half. But I think my biggest fun fact that I got to experience, I'm sure you know of her, Sana Amat. So
Dreaming.
I was her intern for a year and a half, and I was in this was like back in like their old office on Fifth Avenue. I was sitting at the desk that I shared with her. There was me in the same room as her and Jordan White, all like kind of snuggled up together. And she was an assistant editor at the time, I think. And she leans over to me and she's like, "Are there any Muslim superheroes?" And I was like, because I think it was like her first or second year, and I don't think she knew much. I don't know how much she knew about comic books. And she's like, she said, "Who are the prominent Muslim superheroes?" And I was like, I mean, there's Dust, and then there's Monet, and then like I was trying to go through them.
Right.
She's like, but no, who's like the Superman? Who's like the big one? And I was like, I don't know if there is one. She's like, then I'm just gonna have to make one. And then flash forward, we have Miss Marvel, who's like, I swear to God. And it's just like, I don't even know if she remembers saying that to me, but it was like, she was like thinking about this back then, and I'm just like, that is the surreal thing that will always stick with me, is like I was in the room maybe when that spark happened in her mind.
And you might have, yeah, I mean, you might have cemented it for her.
I
I was just reminded, I completely forgot about this because I was obsessed with her. Well, I think everyone who meets her is obsessed with her. She and I did the Larry David show, which was like the late,
what?
late show
Yeah,
after
yeah.
Jon Stewart. We were both guests on that show, and I can't remember why. Like, but we were the comic people, and then there was a comedian and someone else, and we were part of the round table, and we were part of the gag. And that's kind of when I got to, so that's when I think I befriended her. I met her before that with a bunch of the Marvel women, like the editors and various production people, in a hilarious discussion about boys and dating,
Mm,
which I will always remember because the girls had thoughts,
I'm sure
they
they
had,
did.
they had opinions, which I loved. But that's actually, so that was when I met her, and then doing that show with her, kind of that was sort of our moment together.
Oh, that's so
And
sweet.
and then when I heard about, her ascension through the ranks, and it pleased me no end. When she did the TED Talk, I was like, holy cow.
Oh yeah, big deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can talk about comic books, obviously, as you can tell, the entire day. I will always be a comic nerd, and I appreciate you being one as well. But since this is a D&D podcast, am asking for help, and I figured that this would be kind of up your house. I'm playing a game tonight. It's going to be our Southern Rooters, and they're going to be encountering some centaurs, and I would like you to help me create a centaur NPC to either be friend or foe. He's going to be flanked by two other centaur warriors, or she. So, what would be a centaur name that you think that they could be called?
Got a centaur name. Do centaurs and for some reason I want to name with an apostrophe. So the first name that came to mind was something like um Reander, or something with an R in it.
Okay.
Like that was the thing. Because it makes me, suddenly I'm just going like, what sort of names would centaurs give each other? And then I'm trying to think of like the famous one, like Kieran. Like that's a
Hmm.
really good one.
Kira
Uh
Royander.
yeah, sure. Let's do it.
And then is
Do they have last names? Do centaurs have last names?
they
Do they have
can.
tribes? Do centaurs have
So
pets?
this one I'm envisioning they are part of this organization known as the Court of Seasons, which if you don't know much about D&D, I've created this version of Eladrin, like kind of mystical fey elves that
Mhm.
all represent different seasons, and these groups are from the spring season where they're hunting a prince at this point, and they're going to encounter this group. So they're going to either be friend or foe. I imagine that they're going to be a bit antagonistic at first, potentially.
That's fantastic. I have so many D&D questions for you.
Yes.
As someone who used to play ages ago, and it's been really fascinated by the way different campaigns are played here. Um, I am One of the things that's been super fun is seeing the evolution
Mm.
of NPCs, right? And also player classes and species that are available to play. Uh, which is kind of incredible because that was always a dream.
Yeah.
And the thing that I'm so fascinated by here is, and we'll come back to the centaur in a minute, is that because I'm thinking more about now, like, should the name be something like something, bright shadow? Like, should it be like more on the nose, or should it be funny? And which leads to my thing. My I have friends here who run a campaign.
Yeah. Give them a shout out. What's their name?
Tangle runs the campaign. Do you know Tangle?
I think they reached out to me, actually.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But they play like their D&D world, like their environment is a D&D version of Provincetown.
Yes, I've heard of
Um,
this.
yes, and the characters they play, I'm not sure are actually available. Um, like she Tangle's character is some sort of cat humanoid that is loosely based on a cat humanoid in D&D canon. But I
A
don't think it's
tabaxi.
yeah, yeah, yes, but it's some other thing of a tabaxi. Like we were just talking about this at the pig last week. And so one of the things I've been really interested in is I'm curious as your take on how adaptable or not adaptable a D&D campaign should be.
I mean, this usually comes with a session zero where you meet with your players and kind of set ground rules. So it's just like, hey, the rules are only there to facilitate the progression of the story. And half the fun is finding ways around the rules. It's like,
Mhm.
hey, I want to use this spell, and it says I can do X, Y, and Z. Will you allow me to do that? And they're like, Sure, why not? But then there's logistics and kind of operations that kind of get in the way. One of the rules that I have, I try to be like as open as possible. If they want to play whoever they want to play as, go for it. This is going to be your fantasy, your journey, your story. But from like a logistics and operational standpoint, I'm like, please no flying characters, only because we're playing on like a 2D thing, and I'm like, I don't want to have to do trigonometry. I don't want to have to figure out if you're 40 feet in the air and you have a 50-foot,
Oh, of
bow and
course, of
arrow. I'm
course.
like, I don't want to
Sure.
figure out if you can actually hit this person. I mean, don't get me wrong, players and characters can float, but it's just like it kind of you lose that immersion of reality when you're just all in the same plane. That's a little pet peeve of mine. But in terms of just like characters and races and just kind of backgrounds, the joy of D&D for being around so long, and Wizards of the Coast has done a really great job at this, is that there's a lot of custom homebrew stuff that you can
Hmm.
access. And I do this all the time. Tips for DMs and players is if you go into the application as D&D Beyond, there's a whole homebrew section. And what I do is usually I just filter based on numbers downloaded or numbers viewed to be like, okay, what is the most popular one here? Not to say I'm going to pick the most popular, but it's like, there's a reason why so many people are looking at this one, this build of a centaur, because there's no official build of a centaur. It's like, why are they looking at this one? It's because, Dragon Slayer 644 built the most comprehensive version of this centaur race, and it accounts for everything as if it was part of the player's handbook. So it's like, yes, the people are going to keep pulling from this one. So it's all in just like an ability to, if this is who you want to play, that's what we're going to do. But shout out the NPC that I did create that was also a centaur, or to my players who they all eye rolled when I did this. It was they were twins, Apple and Barnaby Shinehoof. They lived in a small town outside of Waterdeep. And they were both centaurs. Only Barnaby got both his human halves from his parents, and Apple got both the horse halves from her parents. So it just looked like it was like a Don Quixote situation where he was just like this crazy guy and was like, "This is my sister," and everyone's like, "What the hell is he talking about?"
Oh my God.
But it's like I always like I like the mythology, bringing it all the way back to Greek myth, is that like half human, half beast type of thing. I always am like gravitating towards, because it's this idea of, is this like part of human nature? Do we want to be this? And I'm like, yeah, maybe. But also I'm like, I love combining those things and being like, how does this work? How does this thing like
Mhm.
exist in this world? I want to know all the details and the integrated parts of this. Then I want to pull it apart and make jokes about it. So the other character that I liked, it was half minotaur, half mermaid, and he was always looking for his
Interesting.
parents. But he's minotaur from the waist down and mermaid from the waist up, so he's just a human.
Wait, don't minotaurs don't have hoofed feet?
Well, sometimes they do. I'm looking at it from like a very basic, like,
Oh, okay.
like I just wanted the excuse to have him be human. He's like, yeah, I
So
know I look weird. I'm half minotaur, half mermaid, and it's just like, dude, you just look like a human.
that's hilarious. I was just trying to think of the poor guy trying to swim with hooved feet. That's very
Yeah,
funny. The what you're describing that sounds really. I'm so sorry. My mind's reeling a little bit because I'm thinking. I tend to think visually. So when people tell me stories, I break them down in my mind like storyboards, and it's
it
how I
sounds like you're a
track.
comic book artist.
Yes, it's how I track story. So if a story doesn't make sense, it's because like somebody skipped a panel somewhere.
Mhm.
And I'm like, but wait, what about like there's a hole here? But also like when you describe these visual things, I'm suddenly like, how would I build that? What would that look like? And I was gonna say it doesn't have the comedy, but like a Minotaur mermaid is fucking cool. Like
It's very Superman, and what was his mermaid girlfriend name? Mermaid
Laura Lamaris.
Laura Lamaris is like, a bird and a fish could never be in love because where would they live? It was
Right.
kind of that storyline of being like, what would be the idea of these two mythical creatures falling in love? But also the joke of being like, what would their child look like if they could be
Sure.
together? But yeah, I love really getting deep into the lore of D&D and just kind of seeing what other people create. And it's the same way, because it's like you see all these parallels throughout all of popular culture, especially borrowing from comic books. So there's, tons of things. We're already at an hour. So I'm going to say, let's just give me like a general hair color or basic color that our centaur uh, Kieran Royander would have? Like, give me a brief description of what he looks like.
So I tend to draw centaurs as not having human faces, but sort of this mix of human
Mm,
horse face. So they tend to have long snouts. So in my head, he would have that. He would have a very beautiful human male torso. My guess is in my head, probably darker skinned, a mane that was almost like a mohawk that would come from
okay.
sort of a forehead down, like down the sort of small of his back. I would probably have tufts of hair on his elbows, and maybe some hints in his fingers that he is half horse. And then I also, when I tend to draw my centaurs, they're a little long. Their human form's a little long. So I would probably do that. And then I think it would be about choosing the horse shape.
Yeah,
Um,
please.
I like, I mean, I'm just going for it. The idea of something like a Clydesdale, something really sort of like, well, except for he's leaner, but something with mass, right? So that in my head, the centaur guy is big.
Hmm.
Um, and that's partially like what, like with the mohawk and the kind of equine kind of
Equine.
humanoid face, equine, thank you, humanoid face, this gorgeous body, a really, really long treasure trail that leads
Of course.
under the horse. Um, and what I'm imagining, I think, are fairly large, not necessarily a Clydesdale body, but the fairly large fur covered hooves, which I really, really like. And in my head, um, it is the hair is, this is so basic, but I feel like it's brown and black.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, look for him in episode 13 tonight. We'll release it
I'm excited. That's great.
this time next week. So that'll be we're playing tonight. That's May 7th, and so the following Thursday is when Kieran Royander will appear, and maybe again, maybe again. So thank
That's
you,
so
Phil. I
great.
appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Before we break, do you want to make any announcements about what you're working on, or any cool things in the future for the Jimenez estate?
Actually working on three cool things. As anyone who knows me knows, I'm incredibly slow. I'm not a fast producer. Which it's my Achilles heel because I get very lost in the creative process. Fortunately, DC and Marvel have actually been really good with me over the years about just putting me in a corner and letting me go create on graphic novels and annuals, self-contained stories.
Hmm.
There's a new graphic novel I'm working on, which I'm so excited about because it just brings me back to old characters that I love, but it hasn't been announced yet. And I just got invited to by DC to do another Black Label book, also with characters that I love. And so the idea of working on these two projects at the same time, I expect it will be years,
Hmm.
but I don't think I could honestly be happier. Like, I am the luckiest boy in the whole world. When I
I
look
love
back at
that.
my career, and everything I've been able to do, even with its ups and downs, I've been doing this now for 35 years. I'm going to like year 36. And I would say 30 of them have been rad. Like every dream I've ever wanted has come true, partially because there are people who, particularly in our business, but like you, like who continue to support me and give me a forum for my ideas and buy my art and let me entertain them with stories. And like very few people I think in the world get that, right? Like I
Mm,
think it's a very rarefied gift to be able to have people say, here, take my money, and in return I will give you a story with something that I wrote and drew. I always say that there's like 8 billion of us on the planet, and probably 7.95 billion of them are better at what I do than I do. I just have the opportunity and the access.
yeah.
So
And you
I
give
am
back a lot too, which is the whole like why I think a lot of people are drawn to you as well. It's just like you are, yes, you may go off in the corner with DC and Marvel and just do your stuff, but it's not like you stay in that corner. You come back and you champion other people as well. So it all comes
well,
back
thank you.
around.
It does. I just feel one of the most important parts about my life in Provincetown has been waking up uh, just daily with unbelievable gratitude for what my life has become, for the people in it, for the opportunities provided, and the fact that I've been able to do this thing for 35 years. Like, who gets that? Very few people. So I'm just grateful.
Great. I love that. And where can they find you on the interwebs if you want to be found on the interwebs?
I'm really only in two places these days, Blue Sky and Instagram, both under Phil Jimenez NYC.
Which is so
Instagram,
misleading because you're in P Town.
I know. It's just that's my kind of established. I just didn't want
Yeah.
to change the names.
No,
Um,
it's funny. It's just like there's this I'm gonna give her a weird shout out, and my producer Nathaniel introduced her to me. Her name is Laura Loves New York. Just look her up on Instagram.
okay.
It is the most surreal thing. Like I don't know what this woman's deal is, but she's an actor in New York. She has a theme song that she sings herself called Laura Loves New York. But I'm like, she is pigeonholing herself because what if she travels? And then just today she posted, I'm going to Portland. And then she sings, Laura's on the go. And I'm just like, okay, she's branching out. She's able to travel now.
Speaking of, you guys need a theme? Do you have a theme song?
Not yet. I mean, we have a tavern talk like, but
Right. It feels to me like just knowing you, like I think you guys need a funny theme song.
So producer Nathaniel has some soundtracks. He's a musical artist. I have no musical bone in my body, but we're working on stuff. But we also next week as a preview, we're going to be talking to Calvin Lynn, who drew all of our
Yeah.
characters. So I would love to have like a little intro music with all of our character artist stuff. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. There's a lot of stuff burning on the oven right now. I'm just like,
I think I might make a call on your behalf.
please, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate this.
Thank
It's
you.
been lovely to talk to you. Hopefully I get to go out to P-Town sometime. And if you're ever in New York, hit me up. 1 hour is not enough to talk comic books with you. I'll just say that.
I'll be in New York sporadically through. Oh, are you going to FlameCon?
Potentially, but we'll talk about this at another day because I'm going to stop the recording right now.
Okay, bye-bye.
No.